BRICS foreign ministers discussed the defense of multilateralism on the second day of their meeting in Rio de Janeiro. In Venezuela, the Prime Minister of Granada, Mitchell, paid homage to Liberator Simon Bolivar by laying a wreath at the leader's resting place. The International Court of Justice began the second day of hearings on Israel's humanitarian obligations towards the Palestinians more than 50 days into the regime's total blockade of aid to the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. On the second day of the BRICS foreign ministers meeting in Rio de Janeiro, representatives discussed the defense of multilateralism in the face of threats and pressures on the global economy made by the United States. On the agenda is the role of the Global South, as representatives are expected to draft a declaration for subsequent approval at the BRICS summit to be held in Rio de Janeiro in July. On Monday, Brazil urged the countries of the bloc to defend preventive peace diplomacy and to join efforts to reject global conflicts both in the Middle East and in Ukraine. At the same time, China advocated maintaining the multilateral trade rules in force as one of the pressing issues at this moment in world geopolitics. And teachers' unions were repressed by Panamanian police Tuesday in the midst of the indefinite general strike going on in the country. Demonstrators took to the streets in at least 7 provinces of the nation, while the police dispersed groups of workers and students with tear gas in at least 2 points of the city of Panama. Likewise, the student and administrative personnel of the University of Panama denounced the siege and police violence in around the university. The demonstrations are in rejection to the policies of the government of José Raúl Molino, including the privatization of the Social Security Fund and for allowing the United States government to attack Panamanian sovereignty. In other topics, in Venezuela, on Tuesday, the Prime Minister of Granada, Mitchell, paid homage to Liberator Simon Bolivar by laying a wreath at the leader's resting place. The ceremony took place at the National Pantheon in the capital Caracas, site that guards Bolivar's remains. The Prime Minister, accompanied by his delegation and Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill, signed the guest book at the Pantheon. Mitchell is on an official visit in Venezuela aimed at strengthening bilateral cooperation on different sectors. Diplomatic ties between Venezuela and Grenada have lasted for over 40 years, based on cooperation, solidarity, and the respect for peace and sovereignty. Also in Venezuela, this Tuesday marks the start of the electoral campaign period for the upcoming general elections to be held on May 25th. From now on until May 22nd, candidates for deputies, governors, and representatives of the state legislative councils will present their proposals throughout the Venezuelan territory. For this, 54 political organizations will begin mobilizations with their militancy to present their proposals. In this context, the National Electoral Council of Venezuela called on all parties, candidates, citizens, and the media to promote a harmonious and respectful campaign focused on the debate of ideas and the commitment to peace, ethics, and conscious participation. And 3 of the 17 military personnel investigated in Ecuador for the forced disappearance of 4 Afro-descendant minors told prosecutors about the torture the victims allegedly received from their colleagues. This led the prosecutor's office and the lawyers to once again visit several areas of Taura where the military had claimed until now that they had left the minors free and alive. On the night of December 8th, the brothers Ismael and Josue Arroyo and their friends Saul Arboleda and Steven Medina were irregularly detained by 2 patrols and were taken to Taura, near an Ecuadorian Air Force base. The autopsy of the minors revealed that they had been shot in the head.
In this new reconstruction, it has been possible to provide information regarding how the 3 adolescents and the 11-year-old boy were taken, including that there were blows that could constitute an act of torture. In this tour that was given, those who gave their version indicated that the children were indeed beaten, that it could constitute an act of torture not only in the last scenario, but also in a second scenario where they were even taken out of a van, were beaten, and were in the same way they were put into the van. That is to say,
the Immigration Department of the Dominican Republic registered a total of 1,096 Haitian citizens deported in the last 24 hours. The General Directorate of Migration of the country carried out operations in several places, such as the capital, Santo Domingo, where at least 199 Haitians with irregular status were detained, followed by 22 migrants in Santiago de los Caballeros, 156 in La Vega, 54 between the city of Mao and Santiago Rodriguez, among others. According to local media, the Haitians were taken to detention centers for illegal aliens to be registered and evaluated according to the protocols for their respective repatriation. And in the United States, White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt assured in a press conference that the government is preparing for the largest deportation campaign in its history. The massive deportations were one of the Republicans' campaign promises after blaming migrants for destroying the United States and ruining the lives of citizens of the country. It was recently revealed that the Social Security Administration had already eliminated more than 6,000 immigrants from its database, leaving them without the possibility of receiving benefits or working in the country. It was announced as well that the White House has the objective of deporting 1 million immigrants, but some experts consider it unlikely since there are several legal impediments. Now we have our first break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The opposition United National Congress Party won the parliamentary elections held in Trinidad and Tobago. This means its leader, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, becomes the Prime Minister-elect. The union won 25 of the 41 seats in dispute, almost 61% of the total, which is considered a landslide victory. After the results were announced, the leader of the union and next Prime Minister of the country, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, appeared before her supporters in a public act and offered a speech in which she outlined her future government actions. More than 1 million people went to the polls as the day unfolded normally, according to official reports. Meanwhile, in Canada, the Liberal Party of Prime Minister Mark Carney won the legislative elections but did not achieve an absolute majority. This way, the Liberal Party now has 155 seats to the Conservative 119, followed by the Quebec Bloc with 21 and the New Democratic Party with only 7 seats. Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, triumphed over Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, whose party was shaping up to form a significant opposition in Parliament. During his victory speech, Carney vowed to work for the people and to minimize divisions. Furthermore, he addressed the threats by U.S. President Trump and assured Canada has many options to build prosperity besides that of its neighboring nation.
As we come here after this most consequential election, let's put an end to the division and anger of the past. We are all Canadian, and my government will work for and with everyone. When I sit down with President Trump, it will be to discuss the future economic and security relationship between two sovereign nations. And it will be with our full knowledge that we have many, many other options than the United States to build prosperity for all Canadians. That is the spirit of Nepean behind me right there.
In this context, Prime Minister Carney underscored the United States colonialist ambitions regarding Canada, assuring Washington will never own the North American nation.
As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen.
And the President of the United States, Donald Trump, completes his first 100 days in office with the lowest approval rating recorded this early into a term in the past decades. Reportedly, so far only 39% of citizens approve of Donald Trump's presidential administration, compared to 55% who have expressed their rejection. According to pollsters, the data show that more than 50% of U.S. citizens consider that the president has exceeded his powers, are violating court orders, overstepping the limits in his deportations, and trying to obstruct the powers of the state. Since his arrival at the White House, Donald Trump has implemented a series of policies of aggression against migrants, the imposition of tariffs, and hegemonic threats that have led to the fracturing of global relations and plunged the country into a growing inflation. And in other news, after a massive and unprecedented blackout that hit most of Spain and Portugal on Monday, Spain's electricity capacity has been fully restored. Through a post made by Electric Network, the flagship company of the essential infrastructure operator Redea, it was also announced that 100% of the substations of the transmission network were energized. As a consequence of the blackout in the Iberian Peninsula, the Spanish Minister of the Interior, Fernando Grande Marlaska, declared the emergency of national interest in the autonomous communities of Extremadura, La Rioja, Murcia, Andalucía, and Madrid. The Council of National Security is scheduled to meet this Tuesday.
First of all, I would like to announce the good news that the electricity system is currently functioning normally, in a stable and correct way. But with the analyses we have been able to carry out so far, we can rule out a cybersecurity incident in the power grid control center.
In this context, and while addressing the media, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez indicated that the executive does not exclude any hypothesis regarding the general blackout of Monday. As the National Electricity Network rejected the claims of a possible cyber attack, Sánchez highlighted the work of the company but stressed that the hypothesis will not be disregarded as investigations are still underway within the National Security Council.
Por tanto, yo creo que al igual que el gobierno de España está siendo...
I believe that just as the Spanish government is being cautious, not discarding any hypothesis but neither singling out one option or the other, I believe that we all have to do this exercise because it is the best way to contribute to social calm, to the peace of mind of the citizens and to the work that the technicians have to do. So that we can then make political decisions to guarantee and reinforce a system that is robust, as is being shown by the rapid recovery that we have witnessed in the last hours.
We now have our second and final break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, we're going to be right back with more. Welcome back. The Israeli Occupation Army launched several airstrikes on the Gaza Strip as famine worsens in the devastated Palestinian enclave. The Wafa news agency reported that 5 Palestinians were killed and 30 others wounded on Tuesday morning in an Israeli shelling of the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone in Han Yunis. Meanwhile, they report a catastrophic deterioration of the humanitarian situation, food and water shortages due to the Israeli blockade on the ongoing siege on Gaza infrastructure. In this regard, the World Food Programme office in Gaza reported that 60,000 children have been diagnosed with acute malnutrition and are being treated in hospitals. And the International Court of Justice began the second day of hearings in The Hague, Netherlands, on Israel's humanitarian obligations towards the Palestinians more than 50 days into the regime's total blockade of aid to the Gaza Strip. At the start of Tuesday's hearing, the representatives of South Africa sent Dangor and denounced that Palestinians are being subjected to genocide under the watchful eye of the world, while during Monday's hearing, Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, condemned the Israeli aggression on Gaza and called on the top court to ensure that the Zionist regime is held accountable for its actions. The 15-judge panel will hear over the next 5 days from at least 40 countries an organization commenting on Israel's legal duties towards Palestine and Tel Aviv's restrictions on UN agencies in Gaza. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sheikh Naim Qassem, denounced that the Zionist regime of Israel has violated the ceasefire agreement with their country in 3,000 different occasions.
كل العالم يشهدون أن لبنان التزم.
The whole world bears witness that Lebanon and the resistance have committed to the ceasefire agreement. There has not been a single breach from our side. However, Israel has violated and attacked more than 3,000 times.
And the Hezbollah leader also took the opportunity to denounce the biased position of the United States government in collaborating with the Netanyahu's regime.
نحن نطالب الدولة اللبنانية أن تتحرك.
We call on the Lebanese state to take greater action on a daily and interactive basis. Summon the ambassadors of the 5 major countries. File complaints with the Security Councils. Always summon the American ambassador because she does not act properly, is biased towards Israel, and the United States does not fulfill its role as a sponsor but rather partners with the Israeli entity.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Volgograd to meet with Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko within the framework of the International Forum Great Heritage Common Future, dedicated to the anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War. The Russian president and his Belarusian counterpart discussed diplomatic issues on the sidelines of the commemorative event. In this connection, they visited the monument to the heroes of the Stalingrad War, together with international delegations celebrating the Soviet victory. It is expected that during the event, the heads of states will reach an agreement on deepening bilateral relations. Russia noted that the Kremlin has received no response from Kiev after the initiative for a temporary ceasefire was presented to the Zelensky government. Moscow described Ukraine's silence as a manipulation and also questioned Europe's lack of reaction. The Russian government reaffirmed its readiness to start peace negotiations without preconditions and underlined the importance of deepening the causes of the conflict. In this regard, the Russian Foreign Ministry stressed the goodwill of the president and informed that it had not received any response from the Ukrainian side. Leaders remind that on April 28th, President Vladimir Putin announced that a ceasefire will be declared on the 80th anniversary of the victory over Nazi Germany in the Great Patriotic War of 1945. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.